Welcome to this World Circular Economy Forum Accelerator session. The topic of today's webinar will be preventing food waste, cities leading the way forward. So we are happy that you're here. I'll be moderating the session. So my name is Simon Grasset. I work for ICLE Europe as an expert on circular economy. A few housekeeping rules before we really start. So please let us know who you are, your organization, your name. I'd like also to let you know that the webinar will be recorded. And so the recording, the slides will be made available afterwards. Also, we would like this webinar to be as interactive as possible. So we really welcome questions. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat. There will be a short question and answers time at the end also. So you'll have the opportunity to ask questions to speakers. Yeah, please also use the chat if you have any comment, any experience to share with us. If you have any issue, you can use the chat as well. You can also write to my colleague Alessandra at this email address. All right, so I work for ICLE Europe. This webinar is organized within the World Circular Economy Forum by ICLE. Really simply, ICLE is a network of cities and regions which are committed to sustainability. We are a global network with a European office in Freiburg in Germany, and we work on many sustainability topics, including food and circular economy. On food, we work on multiple projects funded by EU to try to implement solutions on food waste prevention. We try to identify best practices in cities, in territories, and we try to develop guidance for practitioners. We try to connect, to create connections between cities, between practitioners on food waste prevention. And last but not least, we try to show the work that cities do on food waste. That's the case of this webinar, for instance, and we try to advocate for change. So the goal of this webinar will be first to understand what is food waste, why it is an issue, then to try to understand the role that cities can have to really prevent food waste. We'll dive deeper into certain types of interventions around schools, households, food services, and food redistribution, with really practical details from really different frontrunner cities. You'll have the time to ask questions and exchange with practitioners. And also, last but not least, so this webinar is on food waste prevention. That may sound a bit niche, but it's actually quite interesting because there is really a focus on prevention. And whereas really often on circular economy, the discussion remains focused on recycling. So here it could be interesting to reflect the importance of prevention and try to see how to apply it to other sectors, to other value chains. So I'm going to start with a short introduction on food waste and on cities, and then we'll have speakers coming later. All right, first one is what is food waste? So it's basically any part of food, whether it is edible or inedible, that is removed from the food supply chain to be either valorized or disposed. We usually distinguish between food losses, which happens at the early stages of the food value chain during production, and food waste, which happen later at consumption stages. So this is a really schematic view of the food value chain, starting with the primary sector, starting with farming, and ending up with households, so consumers basically. And I've listed different reasons why food waste or food losses are generated. This goes from damage by extreme weather in the fields, in agriculture, for instance, to inadequate storage at home. So you've got many reasons beyond food waste at different steps of the value chain. Yeah, next. So food waste is a major issue in Europe. So we are generating every year 59 million tons of food waste. So this is quite substantial. If we look at food waste per capita, we see that more than half of it is generated by households and then by food processing. If you look at countries, this is an issue that is pretty much shared by any country in Europe, as we can see on the map. So there are different maps, different data on this, so I wouldn't put too much importance, for instance, Portugal or Denmark, but the idea is to show that this is a shared issue, really. It's also an issue globally, with around 13% of food produced globally being lost. It's also an issue in North America, for instance, if we've got colleagues from North America. And this is an issue because, well, food waste has many environmental impacts. It has notably a big climate impact. We estimate that 16% of the total greenhouse gases emissions coming from the EU food system are actually generated by food waste. So this is quite substantial. This impact can be either direct. We can think about like the methane that is generated by food waste that ferments when it is landfilled, for instance. But actually, you've got many indirect impacts because this food has to be produced, it has to be distributed, it has to be stored, and all of this as a climate impact, but also an impact on sometimes water, biodiversity, generates pollution, and so on. So the picture on the right like shows really breaks down the impact for each stage of the value chain for a specific foodstuff. It's also an issue because like we are facing food poverty in Europe, but also obviously in the world. And finally, all of this food that ends up being wasted, it's just an economic loss. So yeah, the conclusion is that food waste is a major issue that should be tackled. At EU level, the EU is quite ambitious. Food waste is really a cornerstone of the farm to fork strategy. The EU has set ambitious targets to reduce food waste by 2030 in processing and manufacturing, but also at retail and consumers level. So yeah, there is a real ambition at EU level on food waste. So maybe quickly how to tackle food waste. So we are looking at prevention. So it's really the first step of the waste hierarchy that you can see pictured here. And it's only when prevention is not possible that we move to the other steps. So redistribution for human consumption, for animal feed. And it's only later only that you start composting or making biogas. So I'm not gonna really stay too long on this, but the idea will be in each of the case studies to look in practice how it works to prevent food waste. So this webinar is about cities, but actually why cities? So in fact, cities, local authorities, or even regions, they have different roles, different responsibilities, such as waste management, such as education and schools, in some cases, hospitals and daycare centers. They are also in charge of spatial planning and so on. So those different roles actually can be used to reduce food waste. Because in the end, cities, city administration are direct producers of food waste. If you think about school canteens, for instance, you generate food waste either in the kitchen or on the plate, so you can reduce it yourself, but also indirectly you can engage with different actors of the food value chain to try to encourage them to reduce food waste. So there are really many actions that cities can do, and that really is the topic of today's discussion. So this is once again the food value chain. And so those actions can happen at different steps of the value chain. And today we'll be focusing on 4 types of actions, really: school canteens, food redistribution and food banks, households, and then to some extent the HoReCa sector, so hotel, restaurants, and cafe. And so for that, we are really lucky to have 4 case studies. So first we'll have the city of Helsingborg. I hope my pronunciation is fine, which is in southern Sweden. So here we'll see how to reduce food waste in schools. Then we move to Bruges in Belgium, in Flanders, to see how cities can actually reduce the food waste produced by households. Then we'll move to Portugal to think about food services, but we'll also look at households and other settings or situations, let's say. And finally, we'll end up with Valles Occidental in Catalonia, in Spain, to think about food redistribution and how we can redistribute surplus food. All right, so we'll start with preventing food waste in schools. So we have the municipality of Helsingborg here. We've got a project manager in charge of climate agreements. So please welcome Sofia Mattsson. Sofia, the floor is yours. I'll be sharing the screen. So just tell me next whenever you want to change.
Thank you so much. You can take the next. We have two main goals for the food in schools and preschools in Helsingborg: food waste and the climate emission from the food. You can see the goals and where we are today on the screen right now. Next, please. But before I go on, I will give you the bigger picture. 1961, the United States of America and John F. Kennedy had a mission to be the first country in the world to put a man on the moon. Next. The city of Helsingborg, together with 111 other European countries, also have a mission to be climate neutral by 2030. Next. To do this, food is a very important thing to work with. And the food journey started 2017 in Helsingborg schools. And here you can see the starting point for the food waste. It should actually be 78 grams per person. And the goal to make it 50% less. You can also see that older students produce more food waste and that cooking your own food produces less food waste. Next. On this screen to the left, you can see the starting point, 78 gram food waste per person. The purple line is the target, and you can see that it's half of that. 2020, we reached that target. So we set a new target that is 30 gram per person. And to the right, you can see 2023, that the serving waste, the yellow, and the cooking kitchen waste, the blue parts, are minimized. But we still have a lot to do in the plate waste. Next, please. To work with the plate waste and with the students, we are cooperating with the Behavior Lab, in Swedish, Beteendelabbet, where we investigate why they throw away food. We know that it's rarely motivation that is missing, but it's other reasons such as social norms, habits, routines, etc. And it will be very interesting to see the outcome of this research. Next, please. But we don't only prevent food waste in our own schools, we also cooperate through the food chain with grocery stores, for example. And the interesting thing is when students and pupils go to the nearby grocery store to pick up vegetables and fruits, they also eat more vegetables and fruits when they come back. Interesting. Next, please. And we cooperate with the local companies who have signed our local climate agreement, for which I am the project leader. One example is a salad company, where we, during 12 weeks of tests, saved 8 tons of salad from this company. But the toughest part in this is to find a sustainable business deal for all involved. So the logistic partner in this are actually losing money because we buy less of the original food from them that we usually do. But we are trying to find a solution to that. Next, please. And the big picture is lowering the carbon dioxide emissions from the food. To do this, we test new products and develop new recipes, like turning a pasta bolognese into minced hen and minced vegetables. I can tell it's a success. Everyone loves it. Next. Inviting kids into the kitchen, they are not only curious about how the mashed potato machine works, it also makes the kids and the personnel in the kitchen get relations between each other. Very good. Next. Nudging we have used through the journey, such as putting the vegetarian dish first in the menu and first in the serving line, also very good way to get more vegetarian food into the stomachs of the kids. Next. And we try new products like hemp. In Sweden, hemp is not very usual today. Together with the academy and students to mix and test and do everything. Next, please. Turning leftover vegetables into new dishes. To do this, we had to buy in new trays for the oven, but the trays can also be used for making pancakes and other stuff. And they are good because they can make many at the same time. Next. Our success factors are, for example, education, inspiration, and testing. Using famous person to inspire the chefs. Testing, 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 and while testing, don't be afraid to fail. Next. Our challenges. One of the greatest one is getting everyone to measure and put the right number in the digital system. That's a hard one. I've mentioned plate waste, how to overcome existing routines and business models, logistics, to put away your fear, and don't forget, hang in there. It's a never-ending work. And I have one last slide. Maybe the most successful key is cooperation between the different actors in the chain, within the school, between schools, with everyone. And don't forget your local companies and the academy to be able to test and develop even more. Thank you. I hope I didn't overcross the 7 minutes.
No, it's perfect. Thank you so much, Sofia. That was really
Thank you.
inspiring. So here is your email address in case some people wants to know more about what you're doing. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
And feel free to ask questions in the chat if you want to know more about what's happening in Helsingborg.
And I will try to answer them.
Thank you. So next we'll be looking at food waste in households, so how to reduce food waste at home and what cities can do for that. So from the municipality of Bruges and as climate policy officer, we've got Karine de Batselier. I hope the pronunciation is correct. Karine, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. I'm happy to be here and give you some insights on how we proceed with our campaign. In this slide, the Food Winners Bruges is our campaign around food waste reduction in households. Next slide, please. We didn't start from scratch. In our sustainable food strategy, Brugge smaakt or Bruges is tasty. Food waste is one of the main themes that we work around, and especially the actions in our food strategy that have an impact on the emission reduction. That fueled our ambition for becoming climate neutral in 2050 in our climate plan. That's on the next slide. And you see, we have 7 bridges, most of them around energy or mobility or climate robustness, but bridge 5, Bruges is tasty, is around everything in foods. And on the next slide, you see the main 3 themes we work around that have an impact on the CO2 reduction. That's more plant-based foods, food waste reduction, and more local and seasonal products. Next slide, please. Now, how did we start? We already had an action around healthcare and supermarkets, but we were wondering what to do next. And then we made a really interesting food waste estimation tool together with Foodwin. And then we were, I say, a little bit shocked to see that restaurants and consumers were actually even a bigger part of the food waste problem here in Bruges. So we really wanted to work around that. And in the next slide, you see that there was also a study from our public waste agency, OVAM, around food waste in Flemish households that strengthened that idea to work around consumers, because you see here in Flanders, 37 kilograms per person per year is wasted in our households, and it's a division between 66% in solid food like bread and potatoes and 34% in liquid stuff like soup, coffee, milk. But when we asked our citizens what you think about these numbers, everyone said, that's bad, but we don't have any food waste at home. No. 99% of the people we interviewed, no, it's not from us, we don't have it. So we're really wondering, should we start a project around food waste in households? But when we calculated how much food waste it was for Bruges with these numbers, you see in the next slide, we could make a visual picture, sadly enough, that if we lined up every food waste in garbage bags, it was like a distance from Bruges to Paris. That's like 292 kilometers. And with that number and visualization in our back mind, we said we have to go ambitious. We want to reach 5,000 households, have 30% less food waste, and also make the link to the CO2 reduction in this program. Unfortunately, we got a grant from the environmental department on the climate subsidy. The next slide. How did we proceed? We wanted to work in a campaign for 3 years. In the first year, we wanted to train 50 ambassadors because we as a city, if we tell our citizens, you have to have less food waste, what's going to happen? But when we have 50 ambassadors who also spread the message, it will be much quicker. In the next year, we wanted them to help us find 500 households, and the year after that to 5,000. So we really gave them an intensive training, and we were really enthusiastic. You also see the average food waste in those people is also less than the global average in Flanders. But we tested out with them also a project that we wanted to put forward to the 500 people. And in the next slides, you see that the program for the other participants was 5 weeks with 7 challenges. And I will go quickly through those 7 challenges to know that you know what we did around those themes. So in the next slide, you see that we first wanted people to measure, not so easy, but we wanted them to measure for 7 days, but only the liquid and the solids, because the percentages we already knew from the study, it only took 2 minutes a day. And then we gave them tips during the next weeks. And in the next slide, you see we made also tips around how to buy. Don't shop hungry. It looks ridiculous, but that's a really good tip we got from the ambassador that helps, but also make a shopping list. Don't go into every promotion that you get tons and tons of food together with you at home. And the next slide, you see the next theme, that was the food safety date, because in Belgium we have 2 dates, use by and best before. And in the next slide, we had then also tips around the fridge. We made a template because half of the food waste here in Flanders occurs in the fridge. So we wanted them to give tips where to store their products. And also we shared this with the energy cutters. So we attracted also other people to bring this to their participants in their program. And the next slide. We wanted them to cook because we noticed a lack in skills of cooking. We also worked with a famous chef here in Belgium, and he made a lot of films about portion size because people don't know anymore how to cook, how much pasta we need for one person. And in the next slides, you see they also got tips around zero waste cooking, also use broccoli stems, cauliflower leaves, and stuff like that. And then in the last week, we asked them on the next slide to measure again, and hopefully the food waste was less. At the end, they got also a form in which states how much kilograms CO2 and food waste they gained. So did we achieve it? Let's see in the next slide. The 50 ambassadors, although they have a less average, they even gained 65% less food waste, and they saved 212 euros a year. And the next year, in the next slides, we achieved, luckily, the 512 households, and they even got more reduction in their food waste, 67%. And that's also about 60 tons CO2 and 19 tons of food we saved. And then the next year, next slide, not 5,000, but 4,809 households. So I was really pleased with that number. And we even achieved 55% less food waste, which was, I think, a success for us. So in the next slide, you see also that the numbers of CO2 reduction, we changed during the program, because we started with the numbers of the project in Fusion, but then new studies came around here in Flanders, and now we use a range that is also used in the app Plan Eat from our Flemish department. And we can all use the same numbers over all the cities in Flanders. And we also want to share everything we do. So in the next slide, you see also the link to the manuals we made with a lot more tips than I can say here in the almost 8 minutes now, sorry. So go ahead and check it all out. And I say the last thing we remember from this campaign. Together, we can fight food waste, and we will go on doing stuff like this for other target groups. And you can always reach out to me through my email. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Karina. This is really insightful. Congratulations for the great results. And we'll be sharing the links to the manuals in the chat so that everyone can read them. They are in English, I believe, which is also really useful for people. All right. And then we'll move further than south to Portugal, and we'll try to look at preventing food waste in food services, but also households, from what I understood. So we have LIPA, which is the waste management authority of the Greater Metropolitan Area. So we've got the manager, Waste Prevention Unit, Susana Freitas. Susana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simon. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Good morning. I will share my screen with you. Just.
Yeah. Yeah. And any questions, we can answer them at the end. We also encourage speakers to reply directly if they like, but we will have time at the end for questions and answers.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I will give you some ideas to implement in your cities and different projects that you can have as a response for different targets or different issues that you can find in our municipalities. So just to clarify, Lipor is a waste management company. We are a public company, and we are responsible to treat and manage the waste from our 8 municipalities, as you can see in this map. And as you can see in Simon's presentation, in Portugal, we love to eat. We really love to go to restaurants. And this is what type of traditional food that we have here, the amount of food for one person. That's why we have the problems with food waste in data that Simon showed previously. So this is our menus, traditional menus. This is for one person only, okay? And the thing is, we really love to eat, but we have a lot of problems with food waste, okay? So we try to work with schools, with canteens, with restaurants, with municipalities, but it's been a hard work that we still have to do to try to minimize or to reduce this problem in Portugal. So this is our data that we have available in Portugal. So as we know, in 2021, around 2 million tons of edible food was lost or wasted in Portugal. This is a lot of food waste. And in our case, in our 8 municipalities, and if we look at our mixed waste characterization from 2023, the amount of food waste is always higher than the year before. So in 2022, we have around 26% of food waste in our mixed waste, and our more recent data shows that we have around 30% of food waste in our mixed waste. So we are doing a lot of work, but we still have a lot of work to do also. It's a very difficult issue for us, this one. So what is our strategy to try to fight this problem? We create a food waste reduction strategy that we implement with our 8 cities. Okay, and this strategy is focused on try to implement projects that can reduce the amount of food waste that is produced, and also work with some local authorities or local entities that could help us to do this, or to scale up this type of project. This is our main targets. Okay, so we work with restaurants, we work with different canteens, not only school canteens, but companies or hospitals. We work also with some social entities and other ones, and also with the families. For these ones, we have different responses, and I try to show some of our response to these targets. What we want with this strategy is to reduce the food waste. We want also to promote a balanced and sustainable diet in these targets. Encourage citizens and restaurants to change their purchasing, cooking, and eating habits. And the last one I think is more important is this message. We want to teach how to peel more and unwrap less. Okay, people need to know how to eat and not to go to supermarket and just pick the food and eat it. So how we do this? This one is the more recent tool that we start to develop in 2021 with the CityLoops project. Okay, this is in a very early phase because we need more data to be a more good model to be useful to the restaurants and to the canteens. But the tests that we did within CityLoops, we found that 30 to 50% can be reduced if they use this type of tool. The other project that we have, this tool could be used by restaurants, canteens, and so on. So it's useful for everyone that has some types of food services. The other one that we have, this one we created in 2008, WCEF2024 Right Portion. This one is similar that we saw before with families. It's same methodology. So what we do with restaurants and canteens is that we measure the amount of food. We put the employees to measure and to weigh all the food waste that is produced, and then we with them try to make some changes in the service, make some training, also made some communication campaigns, and then measure the impact all of this in the food waste they have been reducing, but just doing small changes. This is the areas that we cover with this training and menu changes. Okay, this is made by one Portuguese association for nutrition that help us to work with the restaurants and canteens and change the menus and so on. This is some of our pictures from our training areas and sessions. Then we have also campaigns. This is the type of campaigns that we can do. We did a small theater in the university with the students. This is the type of information that we put around all the restaurants and canteens. This is a manual from families that can use, also with the fridge rules. Also, that this one with the airplane was the last one campaign that we did, where we try to correlate the food waste to the lifestyle. So always the food waste is a bad thing, and we try to convert that bad thing in a nice thing if you save food. This is the main idea. This is data that we collect also from all the restaurants and canteens that implement WCEF2024, okay? And if you can see, we can save around 40% if they implement this project. They can reduce the amount of food in 40%. The other one is the Embrulha project. The idea is to give a small biodegradable packaging to the restaurants, and they can give that package to the clients to take their leftovers to home. So the leftovers from their own meal can go home and try to eat them later. If you go to our website, I don't have time for that, but if you go to our website, you can see the type of that data that we collect, like the amount of food saved, the CO2 emissions avoided, number of packages distributed, the restaurants that are in this network. So I invite you to see this video, small video later. This one is a very simple work that you can do in different municipalities. It's just to look at the municipality and try to see what are the local entities that somehow are doing something related to food waste donation, food waste prevention. As you can see, we have the food bank donators, we have different refood projects, we have some economic also business that can be related to food waste, and we are working with them also. And I think a nice thing is that we have football match, Porto, Futebol Clube do Porto from Porto, that is also in this network to try to all together measure the amount of waste and try to connect them to, if they have some food that they cannot donate to some entity, these entities could pick up that food also. Okay, try to join all these entities. So once again, you have the information related to this data in our website. And since we start all this work with WCEF2024, with Embrulha, and with this local network, this is the achievements that we have been achieved until last year. So this is all the data that we can be collecting with all these efforts. So a lot of work we still need to do, but here you can see that we could save also more than 41,000 tons of food in these latest years. So some lessons that we learned until now. As all of you may may know that it's important to solve this issue. It's very important to be connected with all the stakeholders. Local stakeholders are very important, since citizens to entities and so on. Also municipalities also try to measure the waste prevention. It's a challenge, but we need to do that to show politicals that this is the way to go, and we need to go by there to try to solve this. Raising awareness for a more sustainable consumption. And one thing is, awareness campaign need to be changed, need to be different messages to be efficient. Otherwise, we get used to them. And of course, monitoring the impact, environmental impacts and economic also. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Susanna, and congratulations for the nice results.
Thank you.
So last but not least, then we've got Meritxell and Xavier from Valles Occidental in Spain. We'll be taking you through food redistribution, because sadly, sometimes we cannot avoid creating surplus food, and so we need to find a way not to waste it.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Xavier, and I'm accompanied by Meritxell. We're going to talk about the food sustainability project in Valles Occidental. And first of all, Meritxell will introduce you some information about the region.
So yeah, I was saying that, as Simon showed before, Valles Occidental is a county in Catalonia, 25 kilometers away from Barcelona. And the county council, or Consell Comarcal in Catalan, of Valles Occidental is the public administration at the supra-municipal level. So Valles Occidental has a population of almost 1 million people, and it's composed of 23 municipalities. Yeah, next please. And yeah, here, thanks. And here you can see the framework for action of Valles Occidental in terms of food sustainability. So the actions that are being carried out in the county go in line with the European, Spanish, and Catalan existing strategies and laws. Yeah, next, please.
So the promotion of the circular economy is one of the priority lines of the Valles Occidental. And among the most important circular economy projects that we promote is the food sustainability project. Our food sustainability project currently has two main lines of action, the Recuperem, Meals to Share, and the circular market. The first one started in 2015, consists of collect the food left over of the schools, hospitals, and large companies' canteens that gives a second life to recovered food, facilitating access to healthy and quality food for families in vulnerable situations. And since 2015, more than 95,000 kilos healthy cooked meals have been provided to more than 4,000 families, avoiding around 37,000 kilos of food waste. The project currently involves 61 schools, 5 private companies, 1 hospital, and 23 catering companies. And we collaborate with 18 social entities. The other one, circular market, started in 2021, consists of collect the food left over of the regional wholesale market Mercavalles, where non-marketable but edible fruit and vegetables are checked and classified. Since 2021, more than 90,000 kilos of recovered fruit and vegetables have been distributed through the social entities to the families. So our main objectives of the project are these environmental, social, and economical objectives. And to the success of this project, we need to begin creating a food collection and distribution circuit. We select the food production centers such as schools, companies, and other entities, canteens. Then we select the distribution centers like social organizations, municipal pantries, and other entities of the social economy. And finally, we guarantee that the food is delivered under hygienic, sanitary, and safety conditions to the families registered at social services. So how it was this Recuperem? Recuperem Meals to Share initiative consists of the first, we pack the leftover food in tuppers of about 400 grams. Then we label packets with basic food information and food safety annotations like allergens. Then the food must be cooling and freezing. Afterwards, the social entities twice a week collect the food and they take into the social organizations food distribution centers, transported with isothermal containers to keep the correct temperature. And finally, the food is provided to the families. On the other hand, the circular market initiative consists in the reception and collection of the food in our own stop at the wholesale market complex. Then we need to sort and check the food to make sure that the fresh food is safe and healthful. And then the food must be, we register the quantity safe and we contact the social entities to deliver the food. And finally, the fresh food is distributed also to the families in vulnerable situations. So also we have within the food sustainability project, 2 pilot actions. We have the cyclo-logistic for the sustainable transport of the food with 2 electric bicycles, and also an electric bicycle to transport food and necessary materials of the project to the entities and organization. And the digitalization pilot project with the creation of an internal web platform to record the information of the recovered food from the production center to the final distributions. We want to improve the connectivity and the control of the traceability of the whole food sustainability project. And for this, we are using printers, tablets, own software, and smart apps. And here are some of the recognitions that the project has received. I would like to highlight the most recent one. This month, our project was one of those selected case studies by the United Nations Secretary General's Advisory Report on Zero Waste, and included in the web platform One Planet Network. And now my partner Meritxell will continue to conclude with the latest contributions.
Thank you. So as Xavi explained and previous speakers too, in order to carry out these type of actions, it is key to have support and collaborate with local stakeholders. So from public administration, the economic sector, the society, as well as universities and research centers, all of them are needed. So next, please. In fact, at Technological Center, we have been giving support to the County Council of Vallès Occidental since 2015 in their circular economy transition. And among other activities last year within the CityLoops project as well, we organized 3 workshops to discuss barriers, find new synergies and solutions to prevent and manage food waste with almost 100 local stakeholders. Next, please. And right now, we are carrying out participatory workshops to raise awareness about food waste among citizens. In this, we are explaining the importance to reduce food waste, its diverse environmental, social, and economic impacts, and its link to the climate crisis, because people want to know what they can do also to fight this. And we provide them with practical actions they can do from home to prevent food waste, from planning grocery shopping to optimizing food storage at home, in the fridge and in the freezer, or rescuing food from stores and restaurants. And the objective is to reach at least 120 people for now. So thank you very much for your attention, and please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any comments or questions about how we are working to reduce food waste in Vallès Occidental. We will also add some links in the chat.
Thank you so much, Xavi and Meritxell. That was really interesting and insightful. I really encourage people to ask questions. So we'll have time now for a short Q&A session. I would like to share a few conclusion slides before that. So I'm resharing my screen again. Sorry for that. All right, so I'll be really brief so that we have time for discussing a bit. All right, so the main point of this webinar was to show that cities can effectively prevent food waste. So we've had 4 case studies in which we've really had great results on that. But I'd like also to show the fact that food waste in the end It's also, well, the results of highly dysfunctional food systems, and that food waste is a structural problem that is driven by overproduction. Also, so we really mentioned the impact of food waste, the environmental impact, especially looking, for instance, at greenhouse gases emissions. But also, I'd like to reflect on the fact that ultimately this environmental impact is connected to the environmental impacts of food systems. So we have heavily mechanized food system. We relied on many different types of chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, and so on longer transportations, on storage. And this is where the greenhouse gases emissions come from. Same for the water impact, for biodiversity, and so on. So we have to be aware that to address really the impact of food waste, it's also good to look at food systems more broadly. And so to end on a positive note, cities really have a role to play to transform food systems. We've seen that in Bruges, in Porto, in Baix Occidental. I mean, it's not only about food waste, but it's really like moving towards more sustainable food systems, towards healthier food. And so that's why we really encourage cities to develop wider food strategies. We've got a really nice example here from the city of Strasbourg in France. And so alongside food waste prevention, cities can include actions on, for instance, protecting urban farming land, supporting organic food productions, trying to create shorter supply chains between farmers and consumers, also trying to transition to more plant-based diets, as we saw in Helsingborg. So there are many things that cities can do to really try to have more sustainable food systems. Also, the right to food is a key thing, and we saw that in Baix Occidental, they are really trying to support people in need, people in situation of food poverty. I wanted to share another project here that comes from Skeerbeek, which is a social security for food schemes, where some beneficiaries, they get money to spend in some like sustainable shops, let's say, cooperative, where they can buy sustainable food. Yeah, that was a concluding comment, and now it's time for questions and answers. You're also welcome to share your experiences. So this webinar was pretty much focused on Europe, but we'll be really keen on learning from other continents, other countries. Yeah, so it's time to share, to ask questions, and to discuss. So I see that Julie Bonfait has a question.
Hi, yes, thank you very much. First of all, it was a very interesting webinar. Thank you for it. My question is for the last speakers, so Xavier and Marichel. So you talked about the benefits and how the model was working, but you never mentioned anything about economics. So how are those models working financially? Because I think it's always the question. So projects starts kind of for free, but to scale up, it needs some funding somehow, and businesses need to kind of have these financial benefits behind it. So I was curious to know about how the two projects you mentioned were working on financial aspect.
Thank you. So Xavier and Rachel, if you'd like to answer in 1 or 2 minutes so that we get plenty of questions. Thank you.
The great challenge of the implementation is the operative part. And for the you asked about the financial things. The Conseil Comarcal finance some part of the project, especially at the beginning when a new agent is take part or are joining, and when another center of production or another social entity take part of the project. We help the full process of this implementation, and we have a budget for these actions. And when the project works alone, without our help, then the municipalities take the role of the coordinator in their local territories. And another benefit the benefits are not only this economical of the value of the meals of the food, it's also the environmental benefits, reducing the food waste, and also these social benefits to help a lot of people in need and that have not enough resources for quality food, because we see how this food is healthy, because it's are from cooked meals from the schools canteens. This is completely secure and healthy. And another initiative from the wholesale market is fresh food. And in the typical historical banks of food always have donations of dry food, not fresh food, and that was one big challenge that with the Recuperum we can solve.
Great. Thank you, Xavier. Do we have other questions? So I saw two questions in the chat around scaling up those initiatives and also replicating in other cities. So for the replicating, the goal of this type of webinar is really to share knowledge and encourage others to do the same elsewhere. So maybe at city level, do we have someone who would like to reply on this question? How to scale up, how to go from a pilot to maybe a bigger projects and be able to work with all citizens, all restaurants, all schools in a given city? I don't know if any of you would like to take this question, which is not an easy one, but an interesting one. Yeah, Karina.
Maybe, sorry.
Yeah, it's not always easy to scale up. That's why if we do a project, we also want to share our findings, what works and what didn't work with us. We put it in manuals, and that's why we also translate it in English so we can spread it to all our network from the Milan Pact. But especially for the food waste in the households, we now also have the app from the Flemish department, who is a bit based on our project, so we can reach with the app a whole Flanders. But we do notice that you actually need from time to time a new communication campaign and more intensive to bring people to do it actually, because only an app is not enough, I think. So I'm hoping that I can do this project again within a year or so that we can reach even more people.
Great. Thank you, Karina. Do we have any questions? I saw some other in the chat. So the last one is food systems and local food culture are closely connected. In Barcelona, there is a culture surrounding food markets. Are supermarkets restricted from selling the same types of fresh products as the markets offers in order to help that culture thrive? So I think that'll be for Xavier and Meritxell again. What about farmers markets in Catalonia and in Barcelona specifically?
For example, in our project, we have not a supermarket in the circuit, and this is a great challenge because I think the supermarkets always need to sell, always want a little bit money. All of the food of our project is free. We don't sell anything, and I think for the supermarkets works better initiatives like the Too Good To Go. You all know this initiative, and that for the Recuperem, this agreement between supermarkets and Recuperem is a little bit difficult.
All right. Thank you, Xavier. Lena, you're welcome to ask the question directly if you would like to know more. But I see that my colleague Malin would like to also tell us something.
Yeah, no, there are two questions for Karine. I believe, yeah, if you recommend measuring food waste, considering it takes a substantial amount of time, and why, and how did you choose your ambassadors? Maybe you can say a few words on that. I thought both were very interesting questions that I think were further up, so that's why I wanted to kind of, share them with everybody again.
Yeah, we chose our ambassadors for different reasons. First of all, people didn't think I would get 50 people to join that campaign because it was voluntarily, but we got 150 applicants. So we had the opportunity and the luxury to choose. And then we choose people so that we had an ambassador in every region of our city. We also looked to the gender, to the age. We wanted people who were students, who worked, who didn't work, who were pensioned. Also the household, how big is their household? Do they have a lot of children? That we have different kinds of people. So they were a good representative, and we could have everyone from the citizen could identify with one of the ambassadors. So that's why we chose them. They had a really elaborate questionnaire they had to fill in before they could be an ambassador. Yeah. And for the other question, the measurement, we had a lot of discussion about that because we do ask a lot of people when they have to measure during 7 days. But since a lot of citizens told us, oh, we don't have any food waste, I think for this project, it was really necessary to really confront them. Oh yeah, we do have food waste, but even with the ambassadors, when they measured, they were shocked about themselves. Even I thought, yeah, it will be okay with me, but no, if I did have food waste, and for all different kind of reasons. But I think that was a real big part of the success of the project. We did ask a lot, but they were all enthusiastic to do it. And then they really realized, oh my God, I do have food waste, and it's more than I thought, and I have to do something about it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Karina. So I think it's time to close. Thank you so much. So we'll share the slides with you. If you have any questions, if you'd like to know more about, like you can just reach out to us, ask questions directly. I think we've got the email addresses of speakers also in the slides, so you can contact them directly. I hope they agree. I think they'll be really happy to share more. So thanks a lot to Xavier, to Karina, to Merichel, to Sofia, and to Susanna for their great testimonials and the great work that they're doing. And thanks to all participants, thanks to the World Circular Economy Forum for this great opportunity. If for the people who work within municipalities, within cities, within regions, and so on, within one of the projects that I mentioned, CHORIZO, we are setting up a working group of cities to discuss on food waste with around 3 meetings a year. The next meeting will be on the 12th of June, really diving specifically on food waste prevention in schools. So please reach out if you're a city and if you're interested in this, and we'll be happy to forward the invitation to this working group to you. That's it. We are right on time, which is not that common for the World Circular Economy Forum. Thank you very much to all of you, and I wish you a nice end of the day, nice afternoon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye, thanks.